Very possibly, and I believe it's very possible that the spoil they want to capture and the plunder they want to seize may have just recently been discovered. WorldNet Daily ran this article earlier this year. Israel finds huge natural gas reserve. Top official hails historic moment that could transform nation's future. Noble Energy, a New York Stock Exchange listed company, has discovered and estimated more than, and by the way, it was increased because they realized that what they found was even larger than what they had previously estimated. But at the time, it was 3 trillion with a T cubic feet of natural gas in 3 high-quality reservoirs drilled in the company's Tamar #1 well in the Mediterranean Sea, which is about 56 miles off the Israeli northern port of Haifa. A huge deep water natural gas find off the coast of Israel promises to be a boon to the Jewish state's economy, as well as a stimulus, nice choice of words, to other developers searching for offshore oil and natural gas in the Mediterranean. The find is significant for those who believe the Bible indicates Israel is sitting on a massive oil reserve that would reshape the geopolitical structure of the Middle East. One Bible commentator suggested that it is possible that Israel is not only sitting on a huge natural gas reserve, and by the way, where you find natural gas, close in proximity, you find oil. Some oil companies are now in Israel drilling based on what the Bible said way back in Genesis. There seems to be this prophecy when, before Israel died and his 12 sons, who would become the 12 tribes of Israel, gave them their, blessing, if you will, or curse. And in those blessings, it's believed that the real estate in Israel, the land in Israel that was given to the 12 sons, based on the prophecy, may actually contain not just a large oil reserve, but the source of the oil for the entire Persian Gulf area. What did you just say? Do you realize what you just said? Do you realize what the implications and ramifications of what you just said are? Yeah, of course I do. Could you imagine if they find oil, and not only find oil, but realize that this is actually the source of the oil that now Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Iran, and everybody else's oil comes from. We found the source. So God did give us the oil, and it's right here on our land. Oh, and God gave us the land. It's not your land. He gave us the land. It belongs to us as God's chosen people. Well, you might say that would surely change the complexion, and you would certainly see now an alliance of nations coming against Israel. Why? To get that which they possess. Potentially, not just the natural gas, but the oil. You remember last year in August when Russia invaded Georgia? It was a hot campaign topic for the then presidential candidates, but I believe that the reason that Russia attacked or invaded Georgia will be the same reason that Russia with Iran will invade and attack Israel. It was because of the natural gas pipelines. Interesting article from ABC News shortly after it happened. Russia's Georgia invasion may be about oil. Key energy pipelines through Georgia have irked Russia. The conflict between Russia and Georgia is about borders and political power, but dig deeper and you may find natural gas, oil, and a stronger Russia vying for control of those resources and their key factors. There are 3 key pipelines that run through Georgia, which, by the way, supply the area there. The biggest designed to bypass Russia is the Pt16 pipeline, which transports about 1 million barrels of oil a day from the Caspian Sea through Georgia to ports in Turkey. Interesting, by the way, Turkey is also listed in the Ezekiel 38 list of nations who will ally with Russia and Iran at the helm. I suggest to you that Israel may be on the verge of discovering what could be the largest oil and natural gas reserves in the world, and that indeed could be potentially, we didn't look at this detail yet, the hook that God's going to put in their mouth. That's the wording that the prophet uses. I'm going to put a hook in your mouth. I'm going to bring you against my people. And when I bring you against my people, they will have brought down those walls that they had erected with bars and gates, and they will be living in prosperity, and you're going to want that. They will have potentially found oil, and you're going to want that, and you'll attack them for that. In his book Epicenter, Joel Rosenberg said the following, quote, "In talking to oil experts in Israel and the U.S., I was able to confirm that there is, in fact, both oil and natural gas under the region known in the Bible as, you ready for this? Armageddon. Remember those of you who are with us? Wasn't that a spectacular, breathtaking, stunning sight to be standing up there and looking over the entirety of the valley of Jezreel, also known as Megiddo or Har Mageddon, where that final battle at the end of the tribulation is going to take place? You mean that that's where they're going to find the oil? Well, that would surely bring the entire world to Armageddon. That's where the oil is. So Joel Rosenberg goes on to say, where the scriptures say the final cataclysmic conflict of history will occur. Just how much is there remains unclear as I write this. There is more testing to do, and many technical challenges abound before any of it will be commercially viable to pump and refine. The truth is, we cannot know exactly who will tap into the oil reserves believed to be waiting beneath Israel's soil, or exactly when it will happen, because the Bible does not tell us. But the Bible does make it clear that Israel will be wealthy before the Russian-Iranian coalition attacks. That much we can take to the bank. Pun intended, maybe. And I believe that the Bible hints about the existence of oil in Israel present a viable means for the fulfillment of that prophecy, speaking of the Ezekiel prophecy. Thus, expect to read future headlines like this one. And by the way, this was written before they found the natural gas reserve. He says, expect to read headlines like Israel discovers massive reserves of oil or massive reserves of gas. And then shortly after he wrote that, they find what could be the largest natural gas reserve on the entire planet. Okay, well, this is, again, it's provocative, it's compelling, it's exciting. If you're here this morning and you're ready for the Lord and right with the Lord, then what I've just shared is very exciting. If you're not, then it's terrifying. And it doesn't need to be. And that's what I want to talk to you about just real quickly before we get into our study in the book of Acts. You might be asking the question, well, what can I do about this? What does this mean to me, and how does this apply to me? Well, again, the Bible's not silent in answering that question. The scriptures are replete. In fact, one has estimated that over 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy. In Romans chapter 13, verses 11 and 12, the Apostle Paul to the Roman church said, and you can turn there if you'd like, Romans 13, verses 11 and 12, by the Holy Spirit, he says, do this, understanding the present time. The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. In 1 John, I know I'm going fast in the interest of time here, but in 1 John chapter 3, verses 2 and 3, dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when he appears, we shall